All right. Good morning, everyone. Good to be with you. Before I call this meeting to order, I'll note for the record that I will serve as the acting chair for today's meeting. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York State Urban Development Corporation doing business as Empire State Development for Thursday, February 21st, 2019. As noted on the agenda posted to the internet, we welcome public comment on the items on our agenda. To ensure maximum opportunity for participation, speakers representing themselves may speak for up to 2 minutes each, and if you're representing a group, for up to 4 minutes. As always, the directors have received written materials in advance and are free to ask questions at any time. I ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda. Does anyone have any conflict of interest? There's none. The first item on today's agenda is the approval of minutes of January 17th, 2019. Any questions, comments, additions?
Move.
Additions, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? None. I'll ask, Maria Cassidy has an appointment of officer item. Maria.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, members of the board. The directors are requested to appoint Mr. Lennox Ruiz to the office of Vice President for Global New York. In this capacity, Mr. Ruiz will oversee all day-to-day operations of the Global New York Division, which promotes export activities of New York State businesses and encourages foreign direct investment in New York. Mr. Ruiz joined the Global New York Division in 1998 and currently serves as director of the division. In this capacity, he has managed the division's 3 core programs and led overseas trade missions and trade shows for New York State companies. Prior to joining the division, Mr. Ruiz spent 8 years as an economic development program specialist at ESD and as deputy director of ESD's New York City regional office. The directors are asked to approve Mr. Ruiz's appointment as Vice President for Global New York, effective immediately, and to confirm Mr. Ruiz as an officer of the corporation under its bylaws, including the indemnification provisions of the bylaws.
Is he here? Oh, okay.
And here, all these years, I knew him as Lennox. Now he's Mr. Ruiz. All right. Way to go. Are there
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's premature.
Congratulations.
We haven't voted yet.
Lennox. That's right. It ain't over till it's over. Is there a motion to approve this item? A second. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Maria. John Discolo is going to present an item relating to the purchase of corporate insurance. John.
Well, thank you, Howard, and good morning, ESD directors and colleagues. This morning, we are respectfully requesting that the board authorize the purchase of the corporation's 2019-2020 insurance policies. ESD buys several insurance policies each year, including directors and officers liability, commercial general liability, automobile liability, employee crime insurance, workers' compensation insurance, cyber insurance, accidental death and dismemberment, and finally, fine arts insurance. ESD's insurance and risk management staff partnered with its insurance broker, Alliance Insurance Services, and the Kevel Agency, a New York State certified WBE insurance consultant, to determine the appropriate levels of coverage. Alliant recently solicited preliminary premium quotes on our behalf for the aforementioned policies. As a result, the preliminary estimate of ESD's total insurance premiums for 2019-2020 is $619,550, an annual increase of $24,480, or 4.11%. We have been advised by Alliant that the 4.11% increase represents a worst-case scenario, an out-of-the-box number. And we will continue to vigorously negotiate until the renewal date of April 1st, 2019. As a backdrop, within the last 2 years, we've seen a 6% decline in our insurance premiums. At this time, the directors are hereby requested to authorize the approval for a 1-year term for these policies, commencing April 1st, 2019. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions with this regard.
Okay, thanks. Any questions or comments?
Should I be concerned about director's insurance?
John?
Depends what neighborhood.
Should we be concerned about?
We have a very good partnership with the folks over at Alliant, and these guys are like the smartest guys in the room when it comes to D&O. We have our own D&O maven over there, so I think we're well protected.
I'll
I
accept
think we're
that.
also shielded by, that we're not paid, that we're doing this as volunteers. And that, I think we're shielded by that too, that we're not paid employees. Let me ask you, is this done annually,
Yes, yes, it is, sir.
every year?
Yes.
The whole package has to be renewed every year?
Yeah, we have 11 to 12 policies. We've been trying to combine them for I guess, more efficiency. So we just added the fine arts policy to our portfolio.
Is there any benefit to trying to make them multi-year, either in cost or administrative effort, anything? Can you do that? I don't know, I mean,
I think we can, but we like to go out into the marketplace each and every year to get the best possible price for the agency. I mean, if we can look for cost efficiencies, we will take that into consideration. But the economies of scale, working with our underwriters, can't be, they're significant. Just taking the whole package and using.
oh, true
one-
enough,
Yeah.
true enough, you're right, good, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Well, let me do a president's report. I'm just gonna, you may have heard something about Amazon, I'm not sure. It's been in the news a bit. So let me just talk about that for a few minutes. And let me say, you know, we're an economic development agency, and bringing economic development to the table is what our mission is and what 500 people here at ESD work on all the time. So it was, you know, an extraordinary set of circumstances. It was, you know, we were both at once extraordinarily proud and then extraordinarily disappointed. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. This is what we do. It gets to the core of who we are. I can't, you know, kind of close this chapter with finger pointing or venting or anything like that. I will tell you that I would be thrilled to take 120% of the blame for anything that went wrong. If it would bring Amazon back, I would take all of it. So, you know, regret that we aren't here to continue to celebrate what was the largest economic development deal in the history of the state. And, you know, thinking back on, you know, the last few months, there's a couple of two words that I feel like haven't been part of the public discussion, and those words are thank you. I don't think the words thank you have been expressed enough or in the right places or by the right people. And so I'm going to close our chapter just with talking about that for a bit, and then I'll leave. You know, we're not a political agency, we're an economic development agency. We could leave all the rest of it to others. So I want to say thank you again to the many folks that we work with for a very long time at Amazon who dedicated a tremendous amount of time to this process. That was a team led by Holly Sullivan, and we met with over 20 Amazonians. They spent a lot of time with us here in New York, meeting with workforce development professionals and developers and colleges and universities and transit officials and economic development officials and others. And they just dedicated a tremendous amount of time to this. And I want to thank them again because they did an amazing job. And not just did they spend time here in New York, but I was privy to some of their schedules just in talking to so many of them over time. They hit the road. I know how that feels. They hit the road for a very long time on this search, and I think they did a very thorough job. I want to say thank you to Jeff Bezos because without his initial commitment, anyway, we never would have had this opportunity. I'm so sorry that his successes were so derided as they were. I find that shocking. I'll be perfectly honest. This is not someone born into any royalty or anything else. He scraped together friends and family money 25 years ago and had an idea, which, by the way, came to him on a drive from New York City to Seattle, and started a business in his garage and ended up being, in many ways the most successful business person in the world. I think that's an incredible accomplishment. We should never talk about that, in my opinion, in a way that suggests it's immoral or unethical or in any way inappropriate. It's an extraordinary accomplishment that he should be incredibly proud of. And he's ingenious, and I wish all of that genius and hard work and vision was coming to New York, period. I just do. I think we miss a big opportunity there. I want to thank the team at ESD, who, my gosh, this was a heavy lift. It was a lot of work and a lot of good professionalism. In some ways, you felt like our many decades of experience all came to bear at the right moment in time. And there were a lot of professionals. If I start listing them off, I know I'll miss some and I'll feel bad, which I don't want to do. So, but it was a ton of time and really good work on the part of ESD. And I want to thank everyone who did that, and you all know who you are, and the whole team really came together in a great way. Something else happened which was great for us, which was we worked closely with New York City EDC. And that, for me, was one of the highlights of my 4 years here. They did a fabulous job, and they should be very proud of the job they did representing New York City. New York City is fortunate to have such a strong and robust economic development organization. Very few cities have the kind of capacity to put together an organization of hundreds of people the way EDC does. The fact that we worked hand in glove for 16 months, it sort of surprises people for some reason, but it was great, and that was a silver lining for us. And I want to thank Governor Cuomo, who has been in our corner from day one on this, unwavering commitment right from the beginning, right through present day. And I do think there's a lesson for all of us that we should never burn bridges, okay? We should never burn bridges. The governor's not burning any bridges, certainly, with Amazon. They're a huge employer here in the state, and sometimes no means not now. And sometimes no means heck no. In part, it depends on how we respond to these types of circumstances, and I'm proud of the way the governor is responding. So, I guess the question of whether or not there's a future for economic development in New York is on some people's minds. And, you have to go through our annual report and see how much we do and how impactful we are as an economic development agency. It doesn't, whether you're talking about infrastructure, whether you're talking about the great work that we've done in Lower Manhattan, or the work we do at Moynihan, or the work we do financing airports, the work we do all across the state developing business plans for these regions. You have no idea how valuable it is to a region to actually have a strategic business plan. These regions didn't have that for a very long time. And the resources that we get from the state, that we get from the legislature, that helps us implement these plans. When we meet every month and go through these board books, we are practicing, by and large, metropolitan economic development. We're approving items that, have great strategic value to the regions have been participating in, and helping the regions kind of realize a a future that many of them didn't think they'd have. So there's a lot to do, and you can see from a very thick board book that, we're not done with economic development. We're in the business of providing people with opportunity. Amazon, there were no lives lost, thankfully, but there was a lot of livelihoods lost, and that's very sad. But there's a lot still to do, and I think we do a great job of it. And it doesn't matter whether it's the way we've gotten SUNY Poly back on track, and we have an item with IBM, the way we've helped bring, and I know Doug Rose is with us today, the way we've brought new management to the table, the way we've brought new strategic vision to the table. We've done a lot of really good work, and we have a lot of great and important work ahead of us. So please keep that in mind. And you guys do a great job of it, and I couldn't be prouder to be on your team. But I wanted to put some thank yous out on the table. I'm sorry that there weren't more thank yous all along the way. It's, and I'm sorry I was never able to anticipate, that 25 to 40,000 jobs would ever be met with such, we worked very hard to bring those, and others worked very hard to keep those away. And I never could have imagined that. In my entire lifetime, I never could have imagined it, and never could have imagined that. So, anyway, we have a lot of work to do. We have a full agenda ahead of us, and I don't know how to transition out of this conversation. I think what I'm going to do is just recognize that any of the shortcomings that ESD has exhibited in this process, I think is probably the fault of Edwin Lee.
You're right.
And I just want to, and also probably Glendon, and I think maybe Brendan. Those guys, Edwin, Glendon, and Brendan, I've been suspicious of those guys right from the first day. And now I know why. All right.
So we've gotten to the bottom of this. We know what happened.
And now you guys have been memorialized for all time as
Martin.
to the bottom of it.
I think everybody appreciates, as a director, what everybody went through. I think the thing that we've got to come out of this is, let's make sure this doesn't happen again.
Right.
That everybody should get to Howard, all their thoughts of where it could have been done better. What could we have done better? From whatever angle you have. So then the playbook is, well, let's take a look at what we can do better on all of this stuff. I joined Howard. I was shocked. I mean, I've been here longer than anybody else probably as far as directors goes. I was shocked at the attitude and the comportment of 5 or 6 people, and it was only 5 or 6 people that captured the, for lack of no better term than opposition to this project. And I was shocked. Exploited workers. These are people that are going to be paid $100,000 and more. That, to me, if that's exploitation, we've got a whole lot of people that are being exploited. And I think that we've got to make sure that if we have something like this again, we circle the wagons and figure out, okay, how do we attack this thing to make sure that we can put it across the goal line? Because the goal line is not just us. We do a great job here. But it's the other ingredients that are outside that we don't control. And we have to make sure that we contemplate, how do we bring all these opposition people on our side? How do we do it? And we can't assume that people are going to enjoy what we're doing. I mean, every project that we do, I sit back and say, gee, everybody's going to be happy to have this thing, you know, the Hickey Freeman retention and the park and all this stuff. I mean, I've seen it in my part of the state. But I think we've got to make sure that it has to be joined with other efforts to make sure that we put it across better. So if you people have now, you know, there are a lot of football games that would have been won if we could, you know, turn back the clock. You can't do that. I've been in a bunch of races that if I'd have won every one of them if I could have corrected it. That's not the way it works. But you want to make sure that what we may have done better, we got to make sure we understand what we could have done better. That's the way it has to work. So if you don't hide under a barrel and don't talk among yourselves about all of the, well, if I was doing it, I would have done A, B, and C. Tell Howard. So then he can put together kind of a playbook, if you will, to say, okay, fine. We got to think about A, B, C, D, and E. And I don't think it's any more than 4 or 5 steps that we've got to go through to ensure that if we get something this big that we got to do a little extra. Ironically, we've got to do more extra for these big deals than we do the smaller ones. Smaller ones, we've been doing them every month. I've been doing them every month for years. It's the big ones that seem to take, even though they have much more dramatic effect, they seem to take more effort. And I don't mean that, you know, the projects are bigger, but it seems that we've got to make sure that we take all the ingredients that we need to bring to bear, plus others to make these things work. Because we cannot stop what we're doing. What we do here, I've seen it year in and year out. I remember when economic development was done by 2 people, and believe me, it was not done correctly. I started here with Spitzer, and believe me, economic development was kind of way down the line for most people. What we've been able to do, and what Howard's been able to do, and what the governor's been able to do, is to make economic development, frankly, in many ways, number 1. We've got to make sure we keep doing that. So if you have any thoughts or points of view of things, you got to get it to Howard, because we can all sit back and say maybe we should have run a pass play instead of running. We should have kicked a field goal rather than trying to go for that extra point, whatever. Tell Howard. Get it to Howard. Write a handwritten email, whatever. So then, you know, we can kind of put a composite ideas, shared ideas about how we can make sure that we all can make sure we can at least understand our part and make sure that we get other people who are not in our group to understand what their parts are. But it was shocking. I think that, you know, I mean, we were all, I mean, you know, I called Liz about it. I said, God, what the hell happened? And, but we cannot stop, because the health of this state is directly dependent on what we're doing. Directly dependent on what we're doing. We have to keep going. In fact, if anything, we've got to keep going even harder, because our competitors now see that there's a crack in the wall and they're going to try to exploit it. Goddamn, we got to make sure we keep going on. So I share Howard's chagrin, but I also share the enthusiasm that we've got here, that we have really done it and will continue to do it. And that's what everybody's got to do. We got to continue doing what we got to do. You don't win them all. This was one that we would have really liked to have won, but you don't win them all. But goddamn, you make sure that the next time we make sure that we do win it. Okay?
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep.
Great remarks, Howard.
Tell
It's
Howard.
an honor, it's an honor to serve.
Thank you. Tell Howard, but blame Glendon. Glendon, you're up.
Thanks, Howard.
Yeah.
The directors will be requested to consider 13 projects totaling $336,360,000 in grants and a convertible loan. The projects include 1 Buffalo Billion Award, 5 Regional Council Awards, and 7 discretionary awards. The project will take place in the Central New York, Finger Lakes, Western New York, Long Island, and Southern Tier regions, leverage over $2.1 billion of additional investment, retain 1,235 jobs, and create 487 jobs in the state. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. We'll now move to the project section. Amanda Mays, are you on the line? We've got 2 projects. And let me, before Amanda starts, say that Michael Kane, the VP and Dean of the Jacobs School of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences, and Christina Orsi, Associate VP for Economic Development at UB, are also on the line joining us. So thank you, Michael, and thank you, Christina. And we'll start with Amanda.
Good morning. The directors are requested to approve a $420,000 capital grant from the Regional Council Capital Fund, CFA Round 6, to the City of Olean for a portion of renovation costs associated with the $3.8 million project at the William O. Smith Recreation Center. In the city's 2005 Comprehensive Development Plan, it included plans for prioritizing ways to maintain quality public safety and health, educational and recreational services so as to attract and retain residents and employers to the area. ESD's funding assisted with making building upgrades and also conducting facility maintenance to make the building code compliant, safe, and avoid closure. As the only covered ice rink facility in Allegheny and Cattaraugus counties, it will continue to serve the needs of its residents, recreational users, and sports teams, preserving a vital asset that will continue to bring in tourism dollars. The project supports Western New York's regional strategy of investing in smart growth, investing in existing infrastructure, and creating walkable, healthy downtowns. Moving to the next item, the University at Buffalo Jacobs School of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. The directors are requested to approve $20 million from the Buffalo Regional Innovation Cluster, Buffalo Billion 2, to the Research Foundation for SUNY on behalf of the University of New York at Buffalo for a portion of furniture, fixtures, and equipment costs associated with the $466 million construction of the university's new medical school. The 628,000 square foot building opened in January 2018, relocating the School of Medicine from UB's South Campus into downtown Buffalo on the Buffalo-Niagara Medical Campus, where it is the first academic medical center. The new facility allows for expansion of class sizes and increased enrollment, collaboration with healthcare partners on the medical campus, creation of new faculty positions to meet class sizes, and opportunities for research and innovation spinoffs. ESD's investment was used to purchase and install medical and lab equipment for clinical, teaching, and training uses in the medical school. The project supports Western New York's strategy to invest in health and life sciences, supports workforce development through the education and training opportunities at the medical school, and also presents opportunities to advance innovation.
Okay. Michael, would you like to add anything to Amanda's presentation regarding the medical school, or Christina?
Good morning, Howard, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. No, I think Amanda summarized it well, that I think, as you know, this was a prospective plan to help contribute in many ways to community redevelopment, help with the physician shortage, allow us to recruit outstanding scientists and bring more research dollars and have more research expenditures, and allow us in this new building and new facility to really dramatically redesign, which is a national requirement of the accrediting bodies of U.S. and Canadian medical schools, to redesign the medical school curriculum from the traditional stand at the podium professor talking to 180 students to much more active learning center environments, small group, simulation, advanced anatomic structure analysis. And so all of these things were incorporated into this program, and then relocating 2,000 people from the South Campus to the heart of the city of Buffalo.
Okay, thank you.
Who's Jacobs?
Jeremy Jacobs from Delaware North.
Yeah, the Jacobs family. They own Delaware North. They own a number of businesses across the country.
Great, this is terrific.
Yep. Christina, do you want to talk at all about whether or not you miss working at Empire State Development?
Every day, especially when I get occasional emails or calls from my former colleagues in the evening and weekend about a urgent matter.
All right.
No.
Anything you want to add to any of Amanda's presentation or Michael's?
No, just as a thank you, first of all, for your consideration of this important project, and just quickly, in addition to what Dean Kane said, you have previously supported a number of commercialization awards to us, and this really is where it begins. The pipeline to drive that commercialization and innovation begins with our faculty, many of whom are part of the medical school, that are really the folks that are inventing new life-saving drugs, diagnostics, medical devices. So the growth and support of the medical school is a key part to that. So thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Any questions from or comments from directors to Amanda, Christina, or Michael? Any comments from the public on either of these two items? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks, team. Thank you for joining, all of you.
Thank you, everybody, very much.
Okay. Next up, Jim Fail with two items in Central New York. Jim?
Good morning. The first item, the directors are being asked to approve a $1.1 million capital grant on a $7.3 million project. This project involved renovating 7 historic buildings in downtown Cortland to create a campus for McNeil Insurance Company, which this project created office space, state-of-the-art training facilities for agents, many which come from out of states, IT and equipment upgrades, daycare facility, cafeteria, etc. This job, McNeil Insurance Company was looking to move to South Carolina to locate there, and as a result of this project, they've retained their 100 jobs. And again, they bring in a lot of agents from out of the state, for like week-long training, so it helps the economy in that way. This was a round 5 priority project, and it was completed in September of 2018. The next project is a $800,000 grant to support a $48.7 million project to Syracuse 727. This mixed-use project replaced a facility known as Campus Plaza. This is located up around the Syracuse University campus area. Many of the buildings in this old plaza were in disrepair and out of code. The commercial and residential tenants are geared towards not only students, but employees of the 3 surrounding hospitals that are all within walking distance of this facility. The project involves 15,000 square feet of commercial space and 145,000 square feet with 147 residential units on floors 2 through 7. This was also a round 5 priority project and was also completed in September of 2018. I'd be glad to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Are there any questions or comments from directors on either of these two Central New York items? Is there any comment from the public? Is there a motion to approve these two Central New York?
Move.
Thanks, Derek. Rob, all in favor? Aye.
Good projects.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Thank
next
you.
up, Joe Roman has an item from the Southern Tier. Joe?
Yes, thank you, Howard. Good morning. The directors are requested to approve a $2.6 million regional capital fund grant to Fitzpatrick Holdings. That's for capital expenses associated with the cost of acquiring the real estate, demolition, remediation, construction, and the purchase of FF&E for a new hotel in downtown Corning. The total project cost is $20.1 million. The project is going to create 47 new full-time permanent positions, and is consistent with the Regional Council, the Southern Regional Council's plan, which is to revitalize downtown areas and also promote the tourism assets of the region. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments for Joe on this Corning project? Any comments from the public on this item? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Thank you.
Second.
Derek and Rob, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Brian Scripture has how many? One item, I think, from Long Island. Brian?
Yes, correct. Thank you, Howard. Good morning, everybody. The ESD directors are asked to approve a $275,000 grant to the Community Development Corporation of Long Island for its Peconic Crossing project in Riverhead, Suffolk County. The Community Development Corporation of Long Island is a not-for-profit organization which was founded in 1969 to address the growing demand for affordable housing in the region and is a leader in community development in Long Island and Brooklyn. The Long Island Regional Economic Development Council designated Peconic Crossing a priority project during Round 5 of the CFA, and the Community Development Corporation of Long Island was awarded a $275,000 grant to assist with the infrastructure costs of the first floor parking structure adjacent to the building's ground floor public gallery space. The Peconic Crossing project offers 45 affordable, energy-efficient 1- and 2-bedroom apartment homes with a preference to artists within the region. It is now complete and fully rented, having several artists as tenants. The LIREDC investment in the ground floor infrastructure on Main Street enhances the project's streetscape while adding to the placemaking efforts Riverhead is pursuing after having renovated its performing arts theater in the downtown. The project is viewed as an important anchor venue for the downtown and will help attract additional private sector investment. The construction of Peconic Crossing has been completed at a cost of $18 million, and the project has successfully created affordable housing for area residents and local artists, and it will serve as a much-needed cultural and community hub for the town. We are requesting your approval and to disperse 100% of the grant. Thank you, and I will answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Any questions from directors to Brian? Yep, Derek.
So in terms of the residents, is this all artists, or is it that artists get a preference or priority?
It's a good question. The artists were giving a preference, if you will, but the answer ultimately is it was open to all residents, of course, meeting income.
The income, right.
Set forth by, yes,
Yep.
because they are all affordable, yes.
Okay, other questions for Brian? Any comments from the public on this item? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thanks, Brian. Vinny Esposito has 3 items from the Finger Lakes. Vinny?
Good morning, Howard. Good morning, directors. Yes, the first of the 3 items I have for your consideration today is a $4.3 million Upstate Revitalization Initiative grant for ON Semiconductor to expand its clean room facilities in Eastman Business Park at a former Kodak research lab. This project was allowing us to retain 185 positions that they currently have at the facility and add 34 new positions. The project was completed in March of 2018, and the company has already created 20 of those 34 positions for the $6.6 million project. The second project for your consideration is the approval of a $4 million Upstate Revitalization Initiative convertible loan for Hickey Freeman Tailored Clothing to restructure and reinvest in their Rochester factory, which makes high-quality suits, and as was announced yesterday, will soon be making also high-quality men's shirts as of this summer. This is an $8.2 million project in partnership with the Hickey Freeman parent company, Luxury Men's Apparel Group, and our partners in Rochester and the County of Monroe. This project will commence in April, and this convertible loan will allow the company to keep its 420 employees in Rochester, and if they grow to 500 employees and maintain those employees for an additional 3 years, the $4 million loan will be forgiven and turned into a grant for the company. The final project you're being asked to consider today is a $700,000 Regional Council capital grant for SUNY Brockport Access to Excellence project at their downtown Rochester Educational Opportunity Center. This is a $3.6 million project that will allow them to retrofit and build out the continuing training and educational services that they offer on the 5th floor of this building in 18,000 square feet. The project was completed in December of 2018. Be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Vinny. Any questions for Vinny on either of these three Finger Lakes projects?
Can you just explain on Hickey Freeman, the way it's being structured? It's structured as a loan, then that gets forgiven and then turns into a grant. Why wasn't it?
That's right.
Why was it just as a grant then?
The importance for Hickey Freeman to be able to recapitalize their business and implement a new, what they call direct-to-customer business plan to sort of compete with the online marketplace rather than the traditional retail. Their main issue was access to capital. They had to refinance some existing debt. They had to restructure some existing licensing agreements, and allowing them a loan from the Upstart Revitalization Initiative was imperative to allowing them to do that full recapitalization. So we structured it in a way where there's still a strong incentive for them to reach the job attainment, the 500 total jobs with 80 net new, so that then would be converted into a grant, but this enables them to access that capital up front with the appropriate protections, with a guarantee from the parent company, and also penalties built in if they fall short of their employment goals.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from directors on either of these Finger Lakes projects? Any comments from the public on either of these? Is there a motion to approve? Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you.
Second, yes.
All right. Thank you, Cesar. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Vinny. Kevin Hansen is with us today to present an item from Capital Region, and I know Doug Gross is here. Doug, where is Doug? Doug is right here, who heads New York Creates. And Doug will be able to provide some additional comment as well. Kevin, you're going to start us off?
Yep.
Okay.
Good morning, Howard, and good morning, directors. The next item is a proposal to expand the research partnership between New York State and IBM, an Armonk, New York-based technology company. Under the proposed project, New York State and IBM will establish a new Artificial Intelligence, or AI, Hardware Center. If approved, the AI Hardware Center will lead the research and development of next-generation computing chips and systems that are specifically designed to maximize performance for AI applications. So for a sense of why AI applications require advanced computing hardware, it may be helpful to think about the differences between the needs of a personal computer and that of a driverless car. A personal computer is generally used to process digital data, letters and numbers that help us send communications, access the internet, create documents, or solve math problems. In contrast, a driverless car must act more like a human brain. It must process analog sensory data, like light, heat, vibrations, and so on, to follow the roadway, monitor other vehicles, and adjust the car's speed and steering in real time. So as you might imagine, AI-related applications such as autonomous vehicles are demanding orders of magnitude increases in our information processing power. And the focus of the AI Hardware Center will be to develop new computing systems that are better designed to handle these greater workloads at higher speeds. The AI Hardware Center will be headquartered at the SUNY Poly campus in Albany, with some work occurring in Yorktown Heights, at the IBM Watson Research Center, and at an AI testbed that will be established at one or both of the SUNY Poly and RPI campuses. To create the AI Hardware Center, ESD will provide $300 million in capital grants over 5 years to the Research Foundation for SUNY to purchase tools for the center. IBM's role in the project will be to operate the center and to recruit a new ecosystem of academic, federal, and industry partners as members. In addition, in support of the AI Hardware Center, IBM and SUNY Poly will extend their existing partnership, the Center for Semiconductor Research. Ultimately, as part of the agreement, by 2023, IBM will invest $2 billion across the CSR and AI Hardware Center programs, much of which will go directly back into state-owned facilities in the form of rent and operating funding. create and retain an expected 956 IBM, SUNY, and partner company jobs, and help to retain the approximately 1,000 other private company jobs that now work at the SUNY Poly campus, primarily due to the CSR's presence. The project will also create a new $55 million AI Collaborative Research Alliance, in which researchers from across the SUNY system will partner with IBM on research projects in artificial intelligence and related fields. Of note, this partnership between New York State and IBM will be the second new project for the soon-to-be-established New York Center for Research, Economic Advancement, Technology, Engineering, and Science, or NY Creates, following the November announcement of the Materials Engineering Technology Accelerator with Applied Materials. NY Creates is a partnership between ESD and SUNY that is consolidating and streamlining SUNY Poly's economic development portfolio and advancing new projects to grow the state's high-tech economy. I'm happy that here to offer a few additional words and help answer any questions about the project is Dr. Douglas A. Gross, the future president of NY Creates and current president of Ford Schuyler and Fuller Road Management Corporations, through which he has already begun to direct the operations of SUNY Poly's economic development portfolio. Doug has many accomplishments. Among them includes his being the former CEO of Global Foundries, and he's played an instrumental role in securing this partnership. Doug?
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Howard, and directors for a few minutes to give a quick perspective on this, I'll call New York State IBM AI Hardware Center. IBM continues to be an anchor tenant for us in Albany. They're critical to us both from a technological standpoint as well as a financial standpoint. IBM conducts their basic semiconductor R&D there, and that underpins their server business, their software and maintenance that all goes together. This AI Hardware Center project builds upon their Semiconductor Research Center, as Kevin pointed out. That's really been in operation for a little over 14 years. The center allows IBM to advance their compute technology, engage partners such as Samsung, and to move into new business areas. In fact, as the name implies, the AI Hardware Center is really a pivot for IBM to a truly designed cloud-based AI system that will require new architectures, semiconductor designs, materials, and basic semiconductor devices. And this goes well beyond what you've seen today in Watson, which is more of a classical computer base. This will take them into the future. The semiconductor work is really a core enabler for all this AI innovation. And true AI systems, as Kevin pointed out, will have the ability to correct, interpret external data, to learn from that data, and use this learning to achieve specific goals and tasks through adaptation. So with the tremendous growth of unstructured data, things like IT sensors, image, video, text, there's a tremendous business and technological value in this data. From the soon-to-be New York Creates viewpoint, very simply, this center helps build upon the strengths that have been there. It fills the clean rooms that we have and the laboratories and improves our financial outlook. It continues to give us access into the line to do semiconductor technology work, to attract other partners beyond IBM, and to continue to do R&D and academic support. So I've been a part of the IBM collaboration on both sides for over 15 years, and it's been very positive. And I want to thank ESD for their excellent support and getting this AI Center structured and ready to move forward at this point. So I'm happy at this point to say thank you and take any questions anybody may have.
Okay, great. Thanks, Doug. Thank you, Kevin. Any questions for Doug or Kevin on this SUNY Poly IBM matter? I just want to add that this was, gets to the core of what we do in the semiconductor industry in Albany. And it's, our involvement in this, as you know, is about 2 years and a few months old. And we never intended just to triage a number of development opportunities that were somewhat paralyzed. It was never our intention to be a economic development MASH unit. It was ultimately to help develop a go-forward strategy and to help fix some of the structural financial issues that the organization face. And this does all that. Strategically, it advances our strategic mission in the semiconductor industry. It anchors us to the next revolution or generation of technology, artificial intelligence. It, strengthens the financial position of the entity. And I want to thank Doug for coming on board. He was enjoying a semi or full retirement at the time that we knocked on his door. But we all know how that goes. So thank you for dedicating your time. It's so important for us to have credibility in the industry internationally, and Doug brings a lot of credibility as well through his own personal accomplishments in the semiconductor industry. He speaks the language of the industry, and we need a business person leading these economic development initiatives who knows, who understands it. So we're very grateful to have him part of the team. Any questions or comments from directors on this item?
Total employee base that's involved in all of this?
It's probably close to 2,000 around.
Yeah,
the
that's
IBM.
what I was thinking too. You add the numbers, pieces here. How much of the 2,000 is IBM employees?
IBM has over 300 people there, and then there's probably another 50 to 60 partner program, specifically Samsung, who does R&D with them and will manufacture their chips. So.
And they are based up there, 300 employees are based up there?
Yes.
Wow, terrific. And they report directly to Armonk?
They report in through the research division of IBM in
Yeah.
Yorktown Heights.
Yeah, New Yorktown, that's what I mean, yeah, great. Terrific, good.
Can I ask one?
Thanks for coming, appreciate it.
Is this all connected to the Watson program that, again, the financial sector, I know it's very with Promontory, how pervasive it is? Is this all connected to Watson or additional programs are?
It really is connected to Watson. It's the future of where Watson will go. Watson, as I said, was kind of a standard compute platform that IBM used to get into the AI start. But this next generation is truly hardware and then software algorithms and architecture that's much more like the brain, much more neuromorphic-based compute systems. And this is what the next step that they're going to do there.
Howard, I've got a question of you that relates to your report to the board a little earlier. I don't fully understand technology, but there was much discussion.
Join the club.
Yeah, all right. Much discussion about the loss of Amazon affecting our long-term success in the high-tech economy. I understand this is different than what Amazon was bringing to the table. I just want your views as to whether or not New York and New York City in particular have a solid future in the high-tech economy, whether this is entirely different, this is happening elsewhere. Just your thoughts about what the future looks like given the little setback we had recently.
Well, the New York City economy has benefited greatly from the growth of the technology sector. So New York City has been number 2 in the country in terms of attracting venture capital for some years. So it has a robust technology sector, and success begets success. Amazon was attracted, of course, in part to the size of the technology sector and the size of the workforce here and all those skills. So, New York had a growing tech sector before Amazon. New York, it would have put it on steroids, obviously, and I think it was an opportunity, what I think it was an opportunity to really, cement our position as the eastern eastern U.S. center of the tech universe, and so I think that's important, and I think we have some challenges with respect to, it was a opportunity for us to celebrate the amazing qualities of New York City. New York City still has amazing qualities, obviously. It was attractive to Amazon. New York State has amazing qualities attractive to Amazon. But there's, some work to be done with respect to how business perceive, are we open for business? The governor's open for business. Are we open for business as a state? And I think we have to kind of reassert, and through some of our actions going forward, reassert our determination and our commitment to business, to industry. We have to recognize the critical role that the private sector plays in the economy. We have to recognize it's the private sector that creates the funds that help to pay for some of the progressive policies in the state. You can't, kind of have one without the other. You have to have a robust private sector economy. So, in upstate New York, IBM anchors the technology industry up in the Capital District. This is, Albany, New York is one of a few centers for the semiconductor industry globally. I've traveled around the world now in meeting with semiconductor companies. Singapore, Germany, China, Taiwan, Albany. Those are really the global centers in many ways for this industry. So it's important that we continue to renew our commitment to it. I think these types of things show New York's resolve and commitment to the future. We were, of course, interested in diversifying the economy. New York has legacy industries. This was an amazing opportunity to diversify the economy of the city. This was the kind of deal that was impactful to the balance sheet of the state. That's how profoundly positive it was. So I think it's a setback from an image standpoint. But like a lot of things, you can overcome. And I think we have to resolve to overcome. We have to be open for business. We have to, there are very few places that have the critical mass in so many industries as New York City. And New York City still has a lot to offer, but I think we have to get back to sending a message to people we're open for business.
Okay.
I would just add, as someone that worked in economic development for the city and in technology, that there's no question that New York has shown great strides. And as Howard said, now is leading in many of the important areas of how it gets measured in terms of increased venture capital, increased tech jobs, all these things. But if you go back, New York was not a tech center 20 years ago. So it's moved. And also, in a world where, and Howard talked about in the semiconductor world, how there's different countries, we're living in this globalized world where it's all technology driven, and these things move very quickly. And I don't think that we can ever take anything for granted. You've got to work hard. A mere generation ago, New York City was bankrupt. I mean, there's been so much work, and I think that that's the important work that this organization does in terms of keeping ahead of the curve and investing. And that's why, here's a deal exactly what Robert was talking about earlier. This is a significant, innovative, forward-looking, public-private academic partnership that is exactly the type of work and important work that this organization does to stay ahead of the curve. And that's why, continuing to do this important work is so critical to the state and to the city, so that, we never have to look back to where, the city was in the mid 70s.
There's thank you for that, Eric. For the question, so sorry. It's important for us always to guard against the the risk of arrogance. There's a arrogance that can cause decline. And, the governor sometimes talks about there was a time in New York's history where we just wanted to raise taxes. And, if you keep raising the cost of doing something, you get less of it, and you get less people, you get less business. I read along, the last few months, I've read things like, well, of course, Amazon's coming to New York. Amazon has to be in New York. Amazon grew one of the most successful businesses in the world ever with 1 or 2% of its people working in New York. I mean, most people are 3,000 miles from here. I mean, we're great, but there's a point at which we don't want to take things for granted, and we don't want to suffer from the ills of arrogance. And a little humility goes a long way, a little modesty goes a long way, a little respect goes a long way. So I think we have to be careful. Amazon didn't need to be in New York. I think they've demonstrated that, unfortunately. Where were we? Are there any other questions or comments from directors on this IBM matter? Are there any comments from the public on this matter? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Thank you. Everyone, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thanks, gentlemen. All right. Kelly Bacarizo will present a Market New York program item. Kelly?
Good morning, Howard, and good morning to the board. Market New York has one capital project from round 7 of the Regional Council Awards that we will be requesting board approval for. A grant of $290,000 was awarded to the History Center in Tompkins County, located in Ithaca in the Southern Tier region. The grantee used the Market New York capital funds toward the renovation of an historic building to build a combined visitors and history center, with the goal of this project to increase awareness of and visitation to tourism attractions and destinations in Tompkins County, as well as the overall Southern Tier region. The project specifically involved interior work, including the additions of tourism exhibits and information, a research library, a retail shop, and an art gallery, in addition to some conference space as well for the community. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Any questions for Kelly?
What city is this in?
Kelly, give us a little more detail.
Ithaca, New
It's in
Ithaca.
Ithaca.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right.
Okay. Any other questions from directors? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve this
Move.
item?
Second.
Thank you. Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Hold on. Kelly, do you have another item? Are we done? Are you done with your items?
Nope, I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Simone is up. She's got several Restore New York Communities items, or one item. Simone?
Thank you. I have 2 Restore grants for consideration. The first item is an $875,000 Round 5 award to the Village of Owego. The village is planning to work with building owners to renovate 2 buildings in downtown Owego to create 2,500 square feet of commercial space, 1,392 square feet of office space, and 7,784 square feet of affordable rental apartments, which will be split into 10 affordable housing units. Renovations of both buildings are expected to be complete by April 2020, and total project cost will be approximately $1.2 million. The second item is a Round 5 $1 million grant to the town of Sherburne to construct and rehabilitate 18,976 square feet of the historic Sherburne Inn. The inn has been vacant for over 15 years. The newly restored inn will serve as a tourist attraction, offering a farm-to-table restaurant, along with retail space for a gift shop, bakery, salon, and fitness center. Exterior renovations, which represented Phase 1 of the project, were completed in January 2017, and the Restore project will include a Phase 2 and 3, which involve extensive interior renovations of the lobby, dining room, bar, and kitchen on the first floor, including additional work to build out the second and third floor inn rooms. When complete, the inn will offer 14 to 17 guest rooms. And this project is expected to be complete in December 2019 at a cost of $2.5 million. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Simone on these Restore New York community grants? Any comments from the public on these? Is there a motion to approve them?
Move.
Thank you. Second, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Simone. You are still up, right?
Yes.
Discretionary, a non-discretionary calendar, take it away.
Thanks. I have 3 non-discretionary items. The first is a $500,000 Assembly-sponsored local assistance award to the Queens Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber will create a business support program which offers a uniform set of business services and first-rate direct support to minority and women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, LGBT-owned businesses, and aspiring business owners. Expenses will include focused information workshops, networking opportunities, buyer trade missions, and seminars on critical topics such as human resources, recruitment, training, government compliance, and financing. This project is expected to be complete in October 2019. The second item is a $400,000 Senate-sponsored local assistance award to Center State Corporation for Economic Opportunity. Center State CEO will apply the funds to 4 categories. The first is recruitment of new companies and expansion of existing employers. The second is identifying and coordinating trade missions for regional firms and creating export plans for firms new to exporting. The third is to conduct public outreach, identify competitive projects, and assist firms in completing the required consolidated funding application for the Regional Economic Development Councils. And the fourth is to develop and implement a comprehensive and strategic business attraction program. And this project is expected to be complete in December 2020. And the final item is a $30 million grant to the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory. Cold Spring is planning to undertake construction of a new 7-acre development known as the Neuroscience Research Development Complex. Work at the NRC will focus on cognition, including mapping the wiring diagram of the human brain, a game-changing technology which will have a profound impact on both developmental neurological disorders such as autism and neurodegenerative diseases, including Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. The NRC will be composed of 3 interconnected buildings and will be located on Cold Springs campus at the border of Suffolk and Nassau counties. This development will be phase 1 of a larger development that will ultimately include a phase 2, which comprises housing for visiting scientists. And this project is expected to be fully built out by September 2024. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Simone. Are there any questions from directors on any of these non-discretionary consent calendar items? Are there any questions from or comments from the public on any of these items? Is there a motion to approve all of them?
No.
Thank you, Cesar. Derek, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Simone, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Maria is back and will present Evolve New York. Evolve New York, Maria.
Thank you. The directors are asked to authorize ESD to enter into a program implementation agreement with the New York Power Authority and host site agreements relating to the Evolve New York program. Evolve New York is an initiative led by NYPA to encourage the production and sale of electric vehicles and increase their convenience and accessibility. Evolve New York is an important component of Governor Cuomo's effort to combat climate change and its devastating economic impact by reducing the state's greenhouse gas emissions by 40% from 1990 levels by the year 2030. One of the impediments to greater use of electric vehicles is insecurity about the availability, cost, and convenience of vehicle charging stations. The program will address this barrier by installing, in its initial rollout being presented today, up to 200 direct current fast chargers in convenient locations across the state, enabling drivers to charge their vehicles in as little as 20 minutes. Charging stations will be installed in intervals of approximately 30 miles each in high traffic locations, such as along major traffic corridors, at JFK Airport, and in urban hubs. Host sites include both publicly owned and privately owned sites like gas stations and malls. and drive-up convenience stores. NYPA will commit up to $40 million for this effort. NYPA has requested ESD's assistance with program rollout by entering into host site agreements for the privately owned sites throughout the state. Under these host site agreements, ESD and NYPA, at NYPA's expense, will install the charging stations. The site owners will be obligated to pay costs associated with maintaining the host site, disposing of any hazardous materials, installing promotional and wayfinding signage, and making payments to utilities for ancillary electric charges. Host site agreements will have an initial term of 10 years, with an ESD option to renew or extend for 2 additional terms of 5 years each, and ESD will have the right to terminate any host site agreement in its sole discretion. ESD will participate in the EVOLVE program at no cost to ESD. Under the program implementation agreement, NYPA will be responsible for providing all services and paying all costs related to the installation, maintenance, and operation of the charging stations. NYPA will fully indemnify and defend ESD for any liability arising under the program. The directors are requested to authorize ESD to enter into a program implementation agreement with NYPA and host site agreements with site owners substantially on the terms described in your materials, with any modifications that staff may deem necessary for program implementation.
Okay, thanks, Maria. Any questions from directors?
I'm not sure I understand the role of ESD in implementing this.
ESD is going to enter into the host site agreements that will allow the installation of the chargers with private.
Do we have to find them? Where do these host sites come from?
So ESD is working with NYPA to determine the best locations for these charging stations throughout the state. They'll be along major highways.
And do they volunteer? Are they recruited? That's what role exactly will we be playing?
I think NYPA is taking the lead in reaching out to host sites once the optimal locations are determined.
I think our role is primarily to facilitate the transaction because of limitations with NYPA's governing statute. They can't enter into these agreements, so we're partnering with them to allow for these. Really, our role is just as to allow a transaction to occur for the most part.
But they've done all the work.
They're doing all the work.
Use our statutory powers, in other words.
That's right. They don't have this. They have some limitations on their
I
authority,
understand.
and so we're stepping in to help facilitate where they can't do it.
Yep, go on.
I got it.
No. And if it doesn't go well again, it's Glendon's fault. So.
But these host sites are going to have to enter into third-party agreements with people to help manage those chargers. I mean, there's a level of sophistication now in terms of how you manage the power and the efficiencies when electric vehicles have to use the power. It's not as so. Is ESD sort of not part of that? We won't be.
ESD is not part of that. Our sole involvement here is to enter into the agreements to allow the installation and operation of the chargers. NYPA is going to be handling the maintenance and operation.
Okay.
Any other questions for Maria on this item from directors? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Thank you. Derek, is there a second? I know there's a second.
Second, yes, second. Excuse me.
All in favor?
I want to. By the way, I think this is really important. I may want to abstain on this because I do some work. I don't know sort of legally how that works, but.
Okay, well, you can just say you're.
Just abstain?
I'll abstain. I'll recuse myself in case.
Okay.
But I think this is an important project for New York State.
Great, thank you. Okay, Jonathan Byers up and present an item related to previously approved Empire State New Market Corporation project. Jonathan.
Thank you and good morning. The U.S. Treasury's New Markets Tax Credit, known as the NMTC program, offers a non-refundable tax credit to encourage private capital investment in low-income communities with credits allocated through a competitive process annually. Empire State New Market Corporation, or ESNMC, is an ESD subsidiary that applies for and obtains an allocation of tax credits which are then sub-allocated to projects consistent with the NMTC program. Unless the ESD board separately approves a grant, no ESNMC or ESD funds are contributed to NMTC projects. In September 2018, both the ESNMC Board and the ESD Board adopted a general project plan using NMTC tax credits to finance the construction and/or renovation of 5 Aldi food stores. ESNMC closed 4 of the 5 stores in December 2018, but 1 store did not close. Today, the ESD Board is being requested to amend its previous project approval to substitute 2 similar Aldi food stores, one in Ogdensburg, New York, and one in Buffalo, New York, both within the same previously authorized NMTC allocation. The ESD Board is required to approve projects that demonstrate certain ESNMC project goals consistent with the UDC Act. These projects meet 2 such goals by retaining jobs in low-income communities and increasing the provision of goods and services for low-income community residents. These 2 stores are located in low-income communities, and both stores will still provide increased access to fresh, healthy, and affordable foods. Through this investment, 22 jobs will be retained. All jobs are expected to be available to low-income people or local residents of low-income communities.
Okay, any questions for Jonathan on this item? Kind of a continuation of our previous item. Any questions or comments from directors? Any comments from the public on this? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Absolutely move. This is terrific.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks, Jonathan. Brian Keel is up. He's got 2 New York State Innovation Venture Capital Fund items. Brian.
Good morning. We have 2 items for consideration today. Both are follow-on investments into existing portfolio companies. I'll take you through both items, and then we can do questions at the end. The first item is, first company that we're proposing for investment is AgriList, and we're proposing an investment of up to $1.25 million in Series A preferred equity. AgriList is a woman-led company based in Brooklyn that provides farm management software for indoor growers. AgriList's software as a service platform tracks and analyzes farm data from seed to harvest, enabling growers to optimize plant performance and reduce operating expenses. To date, the company has received $750,000 in investment from the New York State Innovation Venture Capital Fund as part of 2 convertible note offerings. Indoor growers seek to optimize plant growth and production typically by using imprecise methods such as pen and paper, consultants, Excel models, and decision-making based on gut intuition. These methods are often costly and time-consuming, requiring an average of 10 to 20 hours per week and can lead to suboptimal results. AgriList has developed software that collects indoor farm data and offers simple, analytics-based recommendations to help growers optimize production, ensure food safety, and meet regulatory requirements. Since our initial investments, AgriList has gained traction in the indoor agriculture market, having experienced strong growth in subscription software in 2018 with no churn among its enterprise customers. The company enters 2019 with significant momentum and solid backlog of committed business. They're forecasting a 6x increase in revenue over the prior year and plan to achieve positive cash flow in 2020. The company is entering a stage of revenue scaling and will deploy its capital to grow sales and technical teams. In order to fund its activities over the next 18 to 24 months, the company is raising $8.25 million in Series A preferred equity, and we are proposing to contribute $1.25 million into that round, with the balance being provided by private sector investments. As part of our due diligence process, our staff and our external review committee reviewed the business plan, growth prospects, and terms of the investment. As a result of that analysis, our staff and the outside investment committee both agree that the market opportunity and growth potential offered by this New York State company warrants an investment by the fund and recommend its approval.
So this is a follow-on, or you can do the second one?
Yeah, you can.
I'm happy to answer it now.
Yeah, you feel free to ask questions.
So this is a follow-on investment?
Correct.
So if this is a 30 post, 22 pre or so, because it's $8 million, what was the initial investment done at?
The first note was done at a cap of $4 million in terms of its conversion value, and the second one was done at $8 million.
Okay, so those are in the money then on the raise. So okay.
Yes, this financing is done at an increased value to the prior valuation.
Yeah, very much so. Okay.
This trend toward indoor growing is not just marijuana growers.
Correct.
It is propagating all across the country in indoor growing for vegetables of all kinds that are then processed or sent to stores. There's one in Poughkeepsie that's prospering by growing stuff that you'd put in salads and spices and that kind of thing. And it's employing, literally in downtown Poughkeepsie, it's employing probably 40 people who live in the neighborhood and literally come in, and they're actually planting seeds and growing them in very rudimentary but effective environments. And this kind of software would be really helpful to them to enhance their output, their crop, if you will.
Correct.
So this is really cutting edge stuff. In addition to all the marijuana growers, but that's all going to, that's going to be passé, because the food is going to be more important.
On a per acre basis, they get a better pricing from the cannabis growers, but the industry is larger, obviously, in total for produce. Yes.
Yeah, it's climate controlled growing.
It allows you to grow
of whatever
closer
form,
to consumers.
of whatever you're growing. Yeah.
It allows what? I didn't hear that last thing.
It allows you to grow the crops closer to where they're going to be
Okay.
consumed if you can grow indoors versus having to truck it across the country.
Less shipping costs and all that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's part of a trend of farm to table.
In Detroit, there's an old 8-story office building that's doing nothing but growing. It's growing vegetables for local area restaurants, and it's become highly successful.
And this is sort of the picks and shovels for that industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really amazing.
Can I ask a question? Is this collateralized or is this unsecured, the financing?
This is equity financing, so we receive ownership shares in the company, as well as the private sector investors.
Got it.
So it's secured to the extent that the preferred
Yep.
equity is.
Yep.
Correct. It does have some structure to it. It's not common stock. The second company that we're proposing for investment is Terra Biosystems. We're proposing an investment of up to $600,000 in Series A2 preferred equity. Terra Biosystems is a women-led company based in New York City that provides predictive in vitro human cardiac tissue models for use in drug discovery and safety assessment. The company was founded by researchers from Columbia University and the University of Toronto. In the past, the company has received state support from our Innovate New York Fund of $750,000 in 2015, and a subsequent investment of $2 million in Series A preferred equity in 2017. It was part of a $7 million financing round. Current cardiac testing platforms rely on non-physiologically relevant animal models or immature human-based cardiac cell and tissue models. These inferior models can lead to adverse outcomes such as potentially life-saving drugs being abandoned before going into market as a result of inadequate safety data or late-stage drug failures due to cardiac toxicity. Terra offers a highly accurate solution that is based on stem cell-derived human cardiac tissue matured to physiologically relevant adult-like levels. The Terra solution provides cardiac toxicology data earlier in the drug development cycle and a more reliable, precise drug discovery model. Following the Series A investment financing round that we participated in, Terra has successfully developed its BioWire 2 heart-on-a-chip platform to enable multiple lines of business. The company has developed its core cardiac testing business that is generating revenue with multiple pharmaceutical companies. The company has successfully converted their work in these safety validation studies into initial engagements with the heart failure drug discovery groups at several of its clients. This extensive use of its platform also provides an opportunity to create a third line of business, which develops a proprietary database of human-relevant data on healthy and diseased tissue for use in future drug discovery and development efforts. In order to fund its activities over the next 18 months, Terra Biosystems is raising a $10 million funding across 2 closings. The first tranche and second tranche will be done at a pre-money valuation of $22.5 million, which is an increase in the valuation over our prior investment. We are proposing to invest $600,000 into this round, with the balance being provided by private sector investors. As part of our process, we reviewed the business plan, growth prospects, and the terms of the investment with our outside investment committee. And as a result of that analysis, our staff and the investment committee both agree that this is a company and an opportunity worthy of our support and investment. Any questions on Terra?
Okay, any questions from directors on Terra? Any comments from the public on either of these items? Is there a motion to approve these two venture investments?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks, Brian. Okay, Maria Mitchell is up now and present NeuroCure's New York Pilot Demonstration Capital and Working Capital Grant. Maria. Who else? We're joined by Dr. Raj Ratan, Executive Director of the Burke Neurological Institute and Interim Acting Director. So thank you for joining us.
Okay, thanks, Howard. And if I could just join in your sentiments about Amazon, which is obviously a blow to all of us as New Yorkers in trying to do business, but also recognizing the work that everybody does. And as you said, we can't win them all, but I would like to say as well that the governor's unprecedented investment in life science, I think, provides an extraordinary opportunity for the future, and the things that we've been doing and are doing, I think, really lay the groundwork for great things to come in New York. So I think we all have a lot to look forward to, despite some things that go wrong occasionally. So with that, today we're asking the directors to approve a capital and working capital grant of up to $5 million to support NeuroCure's New York, a neurological clinical trial network created as a result of the planning grant that was approved by this board last month. And just so you know, that planning grant was brought to the board at the culmination of that planning process, not at the beginning. The $5 million grant will provide a partial support for a demonstration trial evaluating a phase 2 drug in the treatment of chronic disability due to stroke, the leading cause of motor disability in adults. The goal of the trial is to showcase 2 pharmaceutical companies the unique value of the network and its sustainable trial platform. This platform is designed to reduce duration and cost of neurological product clinical development, a benefit that has already generated great interest among companies with products ready for clinical evaluation. Conversations are already underway with such companies as Biogen, Nono Therapeutics, and Stealth Therapeutics. This platform enables evaluation of treatment strategies that repair the brain and train the nervous system by leveraging robotic technology, which is something that is uniquely a particular strength of the Burke Institute, and yields more precise measurements than current scales and should allow trials to reach statistical significance with fewer patients. The strategy will be relevant to the treatment of disability from several neurological conditions, and over time, NeuroCure's New York will evaluate treatments for disability due to brain injury, Alzheimer's disease, and spinal cord injury, among other conditions that impose great suffering and high financial burden. The trial will also enable NeuroCure's New York to refine its path towards self-sufficiency, expand its network, and solidify its position as an anchor entity for neurological clinical development. With this success, NeuroCure's New York will offer the potential for such long-term economic development benefits, such as attracting commercial companies to run clinical trials and create revenues in New York, generate jobs in trial management, product development, rehab, and data analysis, encouraging greater individual and venture investment, creation of new intellectual property and spin-off companies, attracting medical tourists to New York to participate in neurological trials, and showcasing New York's premier neurological treatment facilities. As a reminder, the $5 million funding we're seeking today addresses a request by the legislature in the initial life science budget for the development of a network like this. The total budget for this project is $9.6 million. And thank you, and either myself or Dr. Ratan is on the phone to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions from directors?
Yeah, when we get a request from the legislature, how does that get to us?
I can answer it with regard to this. I think that Kevin and Howard could speak to the fact that it comes in different ways. But in this particular item, the legislature responded to requests from the both this neurological group as well as the state's medical schools to invest in several different areas. So we brought to you in the past the New York First grants for medical schools, and this is another piece of what they requested. So we worked with the entities involved to put together programs that we jointly felt would really met the goals of the governor's intent for commercialization activities in New York.
I guess my point is more specific than that.
Okay.
Who in the legislature? When we hear the
Yeah.
legislature says.
Sure.
The reason why is, this is part of what I think we've got to start doing, is if somebody in the legislature say, we got to do this for X, Y, and Z, and we do it, I want to make absolutely sure that the people that proposed it absolutely know that we did it. I mean, I know that they'll know that we did it, but I want them to more affirmatively know that we did it. That we took a look at this and this is what we did. I think we got to do more than just to prove it and say great and money goes out. I think what we've got to do is we've got to communicate to the legislature, not the specific legislator, but in addition to that, the senior level of the legislature, whether it's the Assembly or the Senate, that this is what we've done specifically on this, and maybe do a running count of what we've been doing.
Yeah.
Just strikes me that just to communicate a little bit more.
Yeah. No,
You know what I mean?
Yes, yep, I do. I think our just government communications. And
Yeah, so I don't know whether we're doing that or not. Are we doing that?
We have definitely been in communication with leadership.
Yeah, I think we've got to enhance it a little, that's all.
Okay. I would just like to say, too, that we've worked very closely with the groups that worked with the legislature, and I think Dr. Rattan can speak to the fact that these groups have been quite pleased with what we've done and the work we've put into this, and I know that they communicate with the legislature frequently, and we would have heard about it if they weren't happy. So that doesn't specifically get at your request, but we have worked closely with them, and I know that Mike LaFave from ESD has worked with the legislature as well as folks from the budget office to make sure that their specific requests were known and we were working in alignment with their requests.
Yes, I would just add to what Maria said. This is Raj Rattan, and I thank the directors for considering the application. Just amplify what Maria said. We will, I think we have a lot to communicate because this platform will be the first clinical trials platform in the neurological disease space in the world, and it is a desperately needed infrastructure for accelerating cures. So I think with all of the work that's been done over the past couple of years with Maria and her staff and others, I think we have a really exciting product to offer them in response to their requests. And some of the initial discussions that at least got us to ESD involved direct discussions with many members of the legislature.
Well, all I'm suggesting is that we reinforce the fact continually that this is what we're in business for, and that we communicate that we act on it. That's all I'm suggesting, that we are on a more just communicate that we are responsive, but in addition to that, show them that we actually go beyond it, because we're actually examining this stuff to a far greater degree than any legislator would. That we're reviewing all of this stuff to inordinate detail, mainly because it's our fiduciary duty to do it, because it's on our watch and on our charge. But we've got to prove to them that we respond to them. But at the end, we do more than just respond. We're not just saying, yeah, it sounds like a great idea. We make sure it's a good idea, and then we follow it. And I think we've got to tell them that we do a lot more than just suffer the abuse from 2 or 3 people in New York City, that we actually do things for the state.
Absolutely. And
Just
just to your point, not to belabor it, but in fact, we worked with this group for a year and a half to get it to a place where we were all comfortable that it was, the seed idea was there, and we worked very hard to get it to a really commercially viable place, and we will absolutely communicate that.
And you're right. It's we, and the we is here.
Yes.
That's what I'm suggesting,
Got it.
is that we make sure that they know that there's a we behind it. That it's not just, it doesn't, it's not an in and out. It goes in and out, it comes. I think it's got to show that we respond, but we do more than just respond.
Right.
We vet and check the validity of this thing, and we get buy-in from the participants to make sure they know what's going on. And we're talking, this is fantastic if it starts to create something that helps people that have neurological issues,
Absolutely.
which frankly all of us are going to have eventually if we live long enough. Some of us may
that
have
happy
them.
note.
Some may have them already. In my case.
I think we quickly should take a vote.
Yeah.
I just
All
want
right.
to ask.
Sorry.
Any other
So this is
questions?
at the earliest stage, if you take the FDA sort of approval, this is at the earliest trial period, this is where,
It's phase 2.
it's phase 2 now?
Yes.
Okay,
They'll be testing phase 2 drugs, yes.
got it. Okay.
Sorry, Howard.
And then you talked about the licenses that come out of this, and then the ability to license that to pharma companies. That would be owned by NeuroCures. They would then have those licenses to license to pharma companies?
I believe so. Just remembering that this particular proposed, this $5 million is going toward a trial to make sure that the platform works. So there's every assumption that it will work, but all of that gets worked out once it's proven that this, in fact, the platform does work for what we're setting out to do.
So it's the platform that ultimately gets licensed to the pharma companies to expedite?
I believe so. Raj, do you want to clarify that, and if we even know that yet?
Right. So I think that the platform can work in 2 ways. One, we will seek to enhance the value of intellectual property that's based in either New York academic institutions or New York companies by either establishing efficacy in humans. And as you know, there's a great deal of increased valuation that goes from having a safe drug to having one that you know is efficacious. And then the only way that the platform would actually build IP is if it turns out that, it's a little bit of a nuance, but this is the first combinatorial trial structure that will exist because it brings together robotic technology for training with drugs. And so if we show that the combination works better than the drug alone, then NeuroCures will potentially have intellectual property that then can create value for the entity. But our goal is really to be a bridge for huge amounts of intellectual property that exists in academia and drugs that are not being tested in humans because of lack of access to patients.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from directors? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you all. Matt Kennedy is up and has a few administrative items. Matt?
Good morning. We're seeking authorization to enter into a contract for a Business Mentor New York website hosting, management, and redevelopment services. Business Mentor New York is a small business mentoring program that connects entrepreneurs and experienced professionals who serve as volunteer mentors through a web-based facilitated matching system. Over 8,500 users have joined the program, resulting in thousands of mentoring matches. Our current contract ends on March 31st, 2019, and the Mercy Corps proposal would continue until March 31st, 2024 under a new 5-year contract. A request for proposals was issued in October 2018, And the review committee unanimously recommended the Mercy Corps' proposal as the best choice for the continued operation of the program based upon their experience, their expertise, their proposed approach, costs, and practices. The Mercy Corps' contract will have a term of 5 years for an amount not to exceed $375,000. Urban and community development program funding will be the contract funding source. So we are requesting the directors make a determination of responsibility with respect to the proposed contractor and to authorize the corporation to enter into a contract with Mercy Corps for an amount not to exceed $375,000.
Okay, any questions for Matt on this item? Any comments from the public on this? Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Second.
Thanks, Derek. Second, Rob. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Matt, did you have any other item?
Thank you.
No. Okay.
No, that was all for me. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Lizette Montero will present an amendment to the contract of marketing services with Campbell Ewald, New York. Lizette.
Good morning. The board is being requested to authorize a $30 million amendment to ESD's existing 4-year contract with Lowe and Partners Worldwide doing business as Campbell Ewald, New York, for a total contract cap of $255 million. As you may recall, Campbell Ewald is ESD's marketing services partner, developing all marketing initiatives across multiple media for tourism, business attraction, and retention. Funding for this amendment is from the anticipated fiscal year 2019-2020 New York State budget appropriation and allows ESD to maintain all marketing activities as planned through the end of the contract term on November 30th, 2019. Based on current plans and commitments, we will reach the original contract cap of $225 million in June. We are seeking board approval now in anticipation of the required 3-month approval process from OSC following board approval. All other contract terms remain the same. We are confident our marketing is working as we've seen increases in positive perceptions for New York State as a place to do business, as well as increases in consideration as a place to expand, build, or relocate a business. 68% of business leaders aware of our advertising are significantly more likely to consider New York State versus 35% of those unaware. They're also significantly more likely to consider New York State over all other states that are tracked in the research, a full 20 percentage points above California, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Illinois, and Connecticut. Similarly, for tourism, New York State remains the #1 most considered destination in the Northeast, surpassing New York City, New England, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. While consideration for every other destination fell significantly in fiscal year 2017-18, consideration for New York State has held firm at 83%. Our tourism marketing efforts have led the state to record-setting levels of visitation, 243 million visitors last year alone, resulting in an economic impact of $108.7 billion, the highest in state history. The request to increase the contract cap enables ESD to continue to utilize the Campbell Ewald contract for successful marketing initiatives. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments from directors to Lizette on this contract amendment? Just to clarify, Lizette, this isn't increasing spending more than was originally intended. This is to plan for the go-forward budget year, depending on what gets approved.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from directors? Any comments from the public on this? Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Thanks, Derek. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Thanks, Lizette.
Thank you.
Okay, Sue Kang, thank you for joining us. We'll present an item relating to the procurement of environmental consulting services for the disposition and redevelopment of the former Brooklyn Developmental Center. Sue.
Good morning. The directors are requested to authorize entering into a contract with STV for environmental consulting services in connection with the disposition and redevelopment of the former Brooklyn Developmental Center, an approximately 28.5 acre site located in East New York, Brooklyn. In April 2018, ESD issued a request for proposals for the development of high-quality, mixed-use, wellness-oriented development with affordable and supportive housing at the project site. In November 2018, Governor Cuomo announced the selection of Apex Building Company, L&M Development Partners, Riseboro Community Partnership and Services for the Underserved to purchase and redevelop the site under Vital Brooklyn's Affordable Housing Initiative. The development will provide more than 2,400 units of affordable housing and include 11.3 acres of public open space, as well as retail and productive zones. Environmental consulting services are needed to prepare an environmental impact statement for the project's compliance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. STV previously provided environmental consulting services for ESD, successfully completing an EIS for the 2016 Fountain Avenue Land Use Improvement and Residential Project, which is currently under construction and comprises portions of the Brooklyn Developmental Center site adjacent to the project site. STV keenly understands the project site, its neighborhood context, issues, and needs. The firm also had the lower bid of the two firms that responded to requests for proposals. Therefore, staff recommends the retention of STV. The requested contract is for a 2-year term with an option to extend for 1 to 2 years and will not exceed $1.1 million, including contingency. The contract will be funded entirely from an impressed account funded by the developer. The directors are thus requested to make a determination of responsibility with respect to STV and authorize ESD to retain the consultant for environmental consulting services. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions from directors or comments regarding this item for Sue? Any comments from the public on this item? Is there a motion to approve this item? Yes, Cesar, Derek, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Sue. Rachel Schatz will present an item relating to the amendment for the contract for environmental consulting services in connection with Belmont Park redevelopment. Rachel.
Thank you. Good morning. In September 2017, the ESD directors authorized the retention of AKRF to prepare an environmental impact statement, or EIS, for the Belmont Park redevelopment project, and in December of last year, the directors certified the draft EIS, which has since been released for public review and comment. Staff recommends an amendment to increase the contract amount for the cost of additional work related to completion of the EIS and to extend the contract term. Since the time of the original contract approval in September 2017, there have been changes to AKRF's scope of work as the project progressed. Many of these changes result from comments ESD received from the community during the scoping process, community meetings and outreach, and the DEIS public hearing. The public comment periods for both the scoping process and the DEIS were both extended by ESD in response to community requests. ESD, with AKRF's assistance, conducted the public hearing during 4 sessions held over 3 days, instead of the single one assumed in AKRF's original budget and schedule. In addition, the high volume of comments received during scoping and DEIS review exceed the estimate in the original contract. The development of mitigation measures, especially for identified transportation impacts, requires that the consultant perform additional modeling and analytical work as ESD prepares the final EIS. These tasks are essential to adequately assess the full potential of the project's vehicle transportation impacts and mass transit options in a manner consistent with comments heard throughout the environmental review process. All these additional and expanded efforts resulted in the need for extensive additional management, coordination, and support work by AKRF. While the consultant has performed its work well, AKRF's work has reached the original contract amount. The requested amendment amount will cover both subsequently incurred costs and the estimate of the remaining costs to complete the final EIS. ESD staff also requests an additional 1 year be added to the contract term in anticipation of environmental commitment monitoring, preparation of technical memoranda, or initial additional support that may be needed post-FEIS completion. The original AKRF contract approved by the directors in September 2017 was for $2 million for a 24-month term. Staff now recommends that the contract be extended for an additional year for an amount of $1,250,000, including contingency, bringing the total contract amount to $3,250,000 through a term ending in September 2020. The amended contract will continue to be funded in its entirety from the impressed account funded by the project developer. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Before we get to any members of the public who want to comment, I'll start and ask if there's any questions from the directors of Rachel and this extension of the environmental services contract. Okay, I understand there may be members of the public here to comment on this, so when your name is called, please proceed. I think Destiny is going to call different people who have signed up. Do we have people who are speaking on this? Does anyone know? Do we have anyone here from the public wants to speak on this? Okay, great. Two people. Okay.
Hi, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I represent the Flora Park Belmont Task Force and believe AKRF has not provided adequate environmental consulting services in connection with the EIS for Belmont. They neglected to include analysis on a smaller scale alternative despite residents' concerns after the initial plan was selected by ESD. What they studied was the 400% larger scope, which now includes co-shared parking with NYRA and a mega mall, a project the public does not support. Backup data was missing from the DEIS, and we only recently received FOIA requests we made last October, despite the study being out for 2 months. And I strongly question AKRF's analysis areas where they cite no significant adverse impacts. Number 1, community facilities and utilities. The DEIS concluded that there would be no significant adverse impact to the natural gas supply. However, deep in the appendix, there is a letter from National Grid which states the only way to heat the arena is with the extremely controversial Williams pipeline being approved. That alone should stop this project in its tracks. How does that not qualify as a significant impact? Our police commissioner wrote, the increase in traffic that will accompany the estimated 47,000 additional daily visitors, which is the equivalent of a Belmont Stakes Day every day, will overwhelm the roadways in Floral Park and negatively impact our police and emergency vehicle response times. The DEIS also says it's not anticipated that the traffic would unduly influence the rate of accident occurrence. Common sense dictates that just the sheer volume of additional vehicles would create more accidents and aided cases. Number 2, community character, socioeconomic conditions. The appropriate separation they cite between the arena parking lot and our elementary school field and private homes is a chain-link fence and vegetation. In ESD's response to the draft comments, they wrote, school districts with facilities in the study area will be contacted. As of last month and after the public hearings, might I add, no one had reached out to either our elementary school district or high school district, both of which have schools directly bordering Belmont Park. Shouldn't AKRF or ESD have done that? Water. Citizens Campaign for the Environment challenged the water chapter. They found that, and I quote, the information provided in the DEIS is critically insufficient to allow any meaningful assessment of the project's potential impact. Noise. AKRF studied the anticipated noise impact from noise levels at a concert, not an Islanders game. So therefore, there was no mention of tailgating, shuttle buses, the infamous Islander honk. They state, additional noise is not expected to affect the character of the communities adjacent to the north and east lots. Not only do people attend school and live directly adjacent to these lots, but Belmont has hundreds of backstretch workers and horses living on the property. Overall project success. The DEIS does not provide research to support the developer's claims that sports arenas are economic engines. And AKRF gives examples of where retail developments work in China and the UK, but nothing in the US. The review should have included studies of other communities where arenas were developed and the impact those projects ultimately had on those neighborhoods. Econ Journal Watch did a 20-year study on the economic impact of stadiums and arenas and consistently found no substantial evidence. I get 4 minutes, right? But I represent the task force. And consistently found no substantial evidence of increased jobs, incomes, or tax revenue for a community associated with these things. So this is not Amazon. This will be a logistically challenging location for the Islander fans. The parking lots will be a minimum 20-minute walk from the arena. I've done it on Belmont Stakes Day, and it is far, and fans will be bused there. And how are 8,200 parking spots enough for daily visitors of 47,000? Will each car conceivably hold 6 people? The parking lot's far distance, coupled with crippling traffic, no train station from the east, and prohibited tailgating, will not make happy fans. We want development there, but one that will be successful. You're simply looking at an aerial view and saying, sure, that fits. The project was supposed to be about the Islanders coming home to Long Island. When did a luxury outlet mall become a necessary component? Just because the same guy owns both things doesn't mean both things will work in the same location. Has anyone considered Aqueduct for the mall? They have a subway, casino, shuttle buses from the airport, close proximity to the city. It would be a much more convenient location for the international shoppers that Value Retail hopes to attract. And we're constantly reading how they want to move all the horses over to Belmont full-time and further develop Aqueduct. Belmont should be part of the surrounding community, not an island by itself, as the DEIS clearly proves. A true environmental impact study would take the community's concerns into consideration and conclude this project is too large for the area. It has 0 local community support as proposed. Long Island is only so big, and any and all large developments should be mindfully and carefully considered, not a time-limited process. The massive project is inconsistent with the surrounding residential communities, and ESD is not listening to our concerns. Your robust public outreach has been a farce, and despite numerous public hearings and repeated statements in the press touting your community engagement process, ESD hasn't taken resident concerns into consideration in any way. And the Community Advisory Committee that ESD put in place is neither collaborative nor comprised of local residents. One of the RFP's development objectives was to benefit the neighborhoods and communities surrounding Belmont Park. None of this will benefit us. We want that area revitalized, but the infrastructure must support it, or this is irresponsible. We urge you to stick to the RFP area, eliminate the mega mall, and reduce the increased scope. There is still time to do this right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I do have some comments on Amazon if anyone wants to hear.
Our final speaker is Gerard Bender.
Good morning. I'm Gerard Bamrick. I'm the village administrator for the Village of Floral Park. If you could give me 4 minutes, I'd be appreciated. One, I just want to follow up on what Chairman Zemsky said at the beginning about thank you. I really do want to thank the board for their time and efforts in considering this project. The other director over there, I don't know his name, he made a comment just recently, just before, saying it's not just that this board, not just to say it's a good idea, but to make sure it's a good idea. We really appreciate that comment. We really appreciate that sentiment. And that's exactly what we're asking for here, is for this board to really make sure this is a good idea, not just to push it over a finish line. Not here today to speak ill of AKRF. Always heard they did good work. But to be honest, we are hopeful that the amendment being voted on today was to really have them go back and do a fresh start and a redo of the traffic impact study that underlies the DIS. It's good to hear that they're going to be addressing a lot of mitigation issues, but it also sounds like a presumption this project, no matter what, is going to just go forward, and that is a little concerning to us. Because we're not against development, but we are against a project that's going to negatively impact our area, and we don't believe this project so far has been fully reviewed properly. The traffic analysis contained in the DIS is clearly deficient. It grossly understates the traffic impacts that result from the project. It is based on assumptions that simply defy logic. The analysis acknowledges that the Cross Island Parkway is already at peak capacity at relevant times, but then assumes there will be no overflow traffic on surrounding residential streets. It assumes the crush of vehicles leaving the stadium after events will not use existing traffic apps to take streets in the surrounding neighborhoods, but will simply continue to go on to an already overcrowded Cross Island Parkway simply because they are directed to do so by signs that are going to be placed there. Further, the DIS offers no credible mitigation measures for the inevitable traffic impacts. The village agrees with Senator Todd Kaminsky, who stated at the DIS hearings that the fact that the major mitigation measure proposed by the DIS is for encouraging carpooling reflects that this plan is not ready for serious consideration. Incredibly, the DIS defers until after construction the identification of improvements that will be necessary. This is contrary to the purposes of the EIS process. Physical improvements can take years to progress through design, property acquisition, and construction. Meanwhile, impacts on surrounding neighborhoods go unmitigated. Impacts associated with the proposed development must be identified prior to the construction of the project, and mitigation measures must be implemented prior to the opening of the project. The village also agrees with New York City Controller Scott Stringer that a complete study of the impacts is lacking in the DIS and must be undertaken by others. Just as Controller Stringer has asked the New York City DOT to undertake a traffic study of the impacts of the project in eastern Queens, the Village of Floral Park has requested Nassau County Executive Laura Curran to direct the Nassau County Transportation Department to undertake a full and independent study of the traffic impacts of the proposed Belmont redevelopment project on western Nassau County. I would like to submit for the board the village's correspondence to County Executive Curran requesting an independent traffic study, and the letter of support we received from Presiding Officer Richard Nicolello and County Legislator Vincent Muscarella supporting the village's request for a full and independent traffic study. I'll also provide to you County Executive Curran's acknowledgement of our request, as well as her acknowledgement of the, at the time, over 1,700 letters she received from residents of Floral Park expressing their serious concern. That amount is now over 2,000, but I just want to give this to the board members. Again, I hope you follow up on your commitment to give us a good hard look, and we think this project needs significant revision, including the implementation of a full-time train station at Belmont Park.
Okay. All right, are there any other folks commenting? Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Liz, you want?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions, and for Rachel. Go on.
So maybe if you could summarize where we are now in the process, so like procedurally, what happens next?
We had our public 4 sessions over 3 days.
Move your microphone a little closer. Thank you. Great.
So in early January, we had 4 sessions over 3 days of public hearing, where we heard from, I would say, hundreds of commenters, very similar comments to what we heard this morning. We extended the comment period to March 1st, so as of next Friday, that will be the deadline for receiving any comments, either via email or through letters that we have directed here. And we've been going through the comments, organizing them by subject, identifying where additional analysis needs to be taken or additional data collection need to be undertaken. And we are making changes to the document to reflect where the additional analysis is, where the results have changed, additional information provided to make clear where things were obviously not clear in the original DEIS. And hopefully by the end of second quarter of this year, we'll be able to issue the final EIS.
Rachel, this issue of mitigating investments, train stations or others, are you asking the board to vote now on up or down something like a train station, or are we just in the process?
We're still in the process. This is just to authorize a contract amendment so AKRF and their team can continue doing the work necessary so that when we finish the final EIS, we will be bringing that back to the board, and we will request authorization to certify that document is complete. Again, it's released to the public. And then after that, probably a month after that, is when the directors would be requested to make the final.
And then in the final EAS, will there be is that where all the mitigating factors will be identified? We've taken in all of these comments, hundreds, thousands. We've analyzed it, and here are some mitigating, some remedies, so to speak, for some of the
Correct. The final EIS will actually include an additional chapter that will be the complete compilation of all the comments that we received and organized by topic with the responses. So those will be directly addressing the comments that we collected. And then in addition, the document itself will show by a different font or an underline or something that where all the changes have occurred since the draft. So it'll be corrections, additional information, new analysis, et cetera.
Okay. And Rachel, how we've been doing EISs, environmental impacts. Is there anything different about the process that we're following? Is it in any way an anomaly in any way, or is it, how would you describe it?
We're doing it pursuant to the SECRA regulations. I think this process has had quite an additional amount of public outreach than our typical ones. So I think this one probably could set a record for the number of comments we've received. But that is the process working.
Yeah, okay.
Can I ask one?
Yeah, sure.
So after the revisions or the revised draft, are you going to submit it for further comments for public, or is that the final
No, the
version?
public comment period is on the draft EIS, which you certified in December 6th, I believe. And then it's released for public review and comment. And now we're collecting all those comments to compile the final document. And it does get issued to the public again, but there's no formal comment period and hearing.
Thank you.
And in the final document, it will have the mitigating actions. Is that right?
Yeah, the draft EIS has mitigation identified as well, but we're going to have further elaboration, further alternatives, further mitigation.
So what's in the draft EIS now may not be all of the mitigating.
No. We're exploring certain measures and opportunities further.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from the directors on this? Any other comments from the public on this?
Can I make one comment?
Sorry, yeah.
The point you raised is an excellent point. Our position is that traffic analysis was so deficient, this should be put back out again for public comment. The fact that you can put out a traffic analysis that doesn't address very basic issues, and then say, well, you're not going to comment on a real traffic analysis, really undermines the whole process. I think if you wanted to really give this a good hard look, we would send it back out again and have it reanalyzed. It's not unprecedented. I've served as vice chairman of the Nassau County Planning Commission. We would normally send things back out, have draft environmental impact statements redone to have them address our concerns, and then have comments again.
Let me ask another thing, if I may. There were some statistics thrown around about the amount of traffic, cars and everything that are going to be brought in daily? Daily.
Belmont Stakes Day every day.
Daily.
It costs our police $9 million.
Is horse racing that popular anymore?
No, it's not for Belmont. That's for the retail, for the arena, including Belmont, the hotel, the conference center. It's just too much in that space. I don't see how this project can work.
Okay, we have a motion that I think Rachel has put together. Are there any other comments or questions?
So, is the question whether or not the public has any additional information that they want to convey at some later date? Or is the question, you've already provided all the information, but is the question you would like a second chance to comment on whatever we, whatever the final decision is? Because it sounds like there's no additional information you need to convey.
I don't know if that's true because...
well, that's the question.
That's the question. It's a very good question. Because Controller Stringer thinks there should be a traffic analysis undertaken by New York City. That then indicates there was not enough information in the initial DIS to satisfy the New York City side. We agree. And we're asking Nassau County to do the same. Presiding Officer Nicolello has agreed with us. We're waiting a response back from County Executive Curran as to whether or not an independent traffic study needs to be done to address the severe deficiencies in the traffic study that's contained or reflected in the DIS.
Okay, so if Stringer thinks that a study ought to, when he says New York City, who's he referring to? Then, I mean, someone ought to do that study, I guess.
And they've announced, and if you look at the letters we gave, we made copies for all the board members. New York City DOT has expanded their traffic study to include the New York City side. We've asked, they have a traffic study on an unrelated topic. They've expanded that to include the impacts of this on the western end of, or the eastern end of New York City, and we've asked Nassau County to do its traffic study for the.
And is Nassau County going to do that?
The presiding officer agrees with us, and we're waiting to hear from the county executive. And I think you should hold it open for both studies to be completed, and then have a full record to make whether or not what's the actual traffic impact and what are the appropriate mitigation measures. Right now, none are being identified, and to then have a FEIS come out
that may finally identify mitigation, doesn't provide any opportunity to provide comments on the proposed mitigation. It really short-circuits the process.
Rachel, you've been intimately involved in this process. We have a lot of comments. As I said earlier, that a lot of the comments we've heard today are very similar to the comments we've heard. Is it your recommendation, is it your considered professional opinion that we're not taking into consideration factors that should be taken into consideration?
We've been speaking with city DOT, state DOT. We've been reaching out to the transportation stakeholders. Obviously, their review and comment of the document and the project is very important. And there's an exchange of information that we have with DOT on the city side. I think we are doing what the statute requires us to do and what the process requires us to do.
Okay, so, are there any other questions or comments from directors? I think we have to get to a vote. We've given folks an opportunity to comment. We've gone through a process now for several months. Is there a motion to approve? You're done with your presentation, right, Rachel? Okay, yes. Is there a motion to approve? What is it exactly that we're approving, the extension of this?
Of a contract amendment with AKRF.
So then they can do more of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we
They're
can
going to
get
do
to
more
the final.
environmental stuff. I move it.
Okay. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone for coming. Do we have, let's see, any other items? This is are we setting any records for length of board meetings? I think we're going to go into executive session. Thank you for that, Rachel, and thank you, all the participants.
I've got a can I call you about this again?
I have a motion to conduct, and may I have a motion to conduct an executive session pursuant to paragraph D of section 105 of the New York State Open Meetings Law to receive an update on the matter of Cater versus State of New York.
Move.
Okay, thank you. All right. Someone will let us know. Okay, ESD board is back in open session. Note for the record, no votes were taken during the executive session. There is no further business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting. Thank you all.
second.
We are adjourned.
That's right.
Thank you.
We're gone.
What time is it?
Noon.
It's noon. All right. Noon.
Hang in there, my friends.
All right, buddy. Good seeing you.
See you, man. Be well.